Thanks everybody for joining us here today. We're going to have a good chat here with my longtime friend Orlando Sprockel. He's the senior director of information technology at Cameron Mitchell Restaurant Groups. I'm Joshua Skeens, CEO of Logically. We're one of the largest MSPs in North America. We have a strong practice around brand protection, around distributed environments, specifically for restaurant groups, hospitality, and we've had a long history, almost a decade relationship with Cameron Mitchell. And I feel like Orlando's got some great insights to share with everybody about really how they've modernized the network infrastructure and cybersecurity and brand protection from a Cameron Mitchell perspective. And it's been an interesting ride to see how Cameron Mitchell has changed over the last 10 years. But Orlando, do your introduction.
Yes, thank you for coming. As you just mentioned, actually, when he approached me to do this event here, he reminded me that we're about reaching the 10-year anniversary here. So probably he needs to take me out for my 10-year anniversary to our restaurants, right? So, but yes, it's been a tremendous time starting from way back when we started about 2016. We were at that time only a 38 store company. Mostly we're a headquarters in Columbus. Um, so most of the restaurants at that time were local or what I say driving distance. So if something goes wrong, you can hop in the car and go there. But we'll get more into that. As far as my position with the company, for those who are in this type of industry, these days everything plugs in, right? From security system, light system, music system, freezers, everything is plugged in right now. So the days when I started in the IT world about 40 years ago, it was very simple. Either the storage, the compute, or the network. Now everything else is plugged in. So there's been a lot of changes in this company, which we'll talk more about.
Yeah, I think the best thing is kind of like let's level set because the way your stores look today is completely different. It's very modernized. What did the store look like 10 years ago? What did IT and networking and infrastructure and cybersecurity look like 10 years ago for Cameron Mitchell?
So as I mentioned, when we started way back, we were a small team, about four people, about five, including me. The stores had different hardware, different brands, different level of complexity. So there was no standard. And as we built new store, whatever was the new technology then, we purchased. So everything was different. So it was okay at that time. You can only do so much by brute force, right? And then you start getting the issue about what I call tribal knowledge or institutional knowledge. There are things that I know or my colleagues know because we're the one who did the work. But we run into problems as we start looking at the growth. We start talking about the growth path for the company and we look at what will it take for us to modernize or at least be better at what we're doing and don't spend a lot of time repeating the same problems or steps.
And so let's fast forward. Obviously, we've had a lot of conversation, many meetings over the last 10 years, and we've changed a lot of things. What does that transformation look like over the last 10 years? And, what does the store look like today compared to what it did 10 years ago?
So to maximize the relationship with the company and us, we brought them to the table, discuss of our growth. So to start the project, we have to make sure logically as a seat at the table, right? We cannot go and then design a system without them and then ask them to come and then manage it or support it. So we brought logically in early, look at our growth path at that time, way back. We had so many restaurants where we were going to grow. And particularly, we start getting at more IT connected devices and larger and more remote stores. So we work with Logically and we ask them specifically. And then the reason why we chose Logically, because very early when we were looking for a partner in this industry, which we refer to as a relationship, you build the relationship and then you work as a partner. The one thing that we ask them is, do you have customers in this industry, not in hospitality, in a restaurant? I need to make sure you understand what our pain points are, right? So we got that going, and then they brought the knowledge of their current customers, including very simple. You think about it, color cables in your network rack. Our staff at the restaurants, we're not there, are not IT people. You ask them to do something, says, what's blinking? I don't know. They sent you a picture. No, I need a video. I need to see it blinking, right? Or find the blue cable, find the red cable, follow where it is. So we started working with Logically, and they brought in the concept of a standard rack. Things on the top, things in the middle. A PDU, PDU is a smart, power strip. You can toggle things on and off because think about it. If we need to reboot something, because if you call Spectrum at home, the support tells you go reboot the Spectrum modem, right? So well, if we need to tell the staff people who's busy running the restaurant, go reboot something for us, is difficult. But you have these smart, PDUs in the front. They can just toggle the switch and then power cycle the window, whatever we need to power cycle. And most of the time, as you guys know, they come back up again. But the concept of the standard in the rack, sorry if I need to speak louder, but the standard of the rack is good for us, but also good for their support people because they know. So when they call the store, they can support non-IT staff people at the restaurant.
Yeah, and I feel like the first couple conversations we had with you about, hey, let's have colored cables for everything. Let's label every single thing. And we went through that, and you didn't really kind of have an understanding or think that was going to work. But we had a long background of being able to support hundreds of locations for these organizations and literally never step foot on site. Like we wanted to make it so easy for people who are not IT to be able to keep those restaurants going, those businesses going. And I felt like what we did a little bit was we took, we play in mini sized businesses as well. And we were able to take the lessons we take from like real businesses outside of food and bev in restaurants and bring those into your organization as well.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, you think about it, every restaurant, we call them a store. So every store is a branch office. You have to manage them as a full-size functional store, even though it only has two switches, maybe 15 wireless access devices, a firewall, but we have 70 stores. So think about how many switches there is. Think about how many APs we have and all that. So the concept of having them assist us of how to build the technology layer, assist us to be standard so we can scale, but also allows their support people to bypass our IT support and call the store directly because now we have that relationship. So they know our store. They can tell a non-IT person to go do something for us. And that way the load for support is less now because of their 24/7 support.
And there's just so much more technology in these stores now than what there was previously. I mean, a lot of times you think about it, it's food and it's drink, but there's a ton of technology that's running these stores.
And then when we started way back, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have camera security under my belt, music system, light system. A lot of different systems now are being managed sort of directly by IT. We still have facility people managing those specific aspect of those equipment. But because it is connected, it's now integrated. I have to manage it because it will expose that my footprint is bigger now. So it's my responsibility, or theirs actually, to make sure that we have a secure cybersecurity environment. And so as the year progressed, we were able to leverage their knowledge, their expertise to now build at a more advanced level compared to what we used to be before.
You touched on a word there. I know that we're talking about infrastructure and things like that, but cybersecurity, how has that transitioned over the last 10 years for you?
There was no cybersecurity 10 years ago. I mean, even though, think about it, a lot of people mixed network security and cybersecurity, sometimes the same, right? So 10 years ago, it was more of a network security, firewall and policy. Now we have a lot of things that have to be managed together. Human behavior, right? If somebody logs in over here and 5 seconds later they're across the country, that cannot be, right? So the concept of looking at both at a physical layer, logical layer, and the human behavior is way outside of my team's wheelhouse. So if I go out and try to get a cybersecurity expert, bring it in, get them educated, within 4 years they're gone because now they are educated in a very, very attractive field. And my company cannot provide a cybersecurity person a full-time job with fulfillment, right? They get bored after a while. So we hire the company, which is not a person specific, it's a whole set of people there who will bring us the 24/7 support in cybersecurity.
And why do you feel like you personally or Cameron Mitchell Group has leaned into leveraging a Logically or some of your other partners too? Like, why are you doing that rather than bringing it all in house?
There is a limit in certain areas. One basic one is physical desk space. I can only hire so many people, and then otherwise they have to keep expanding. But that's a minor problem to overcome. But you think about it, as I mentioned about the subject matter expert, the logically has multiple people in different verticals. So they leverage a person or a group of people. That's all they do the whole day. They become better every day. And because they have multiple customers, they see the problem from one customer, which also will apply to us. Like if there is a 0 day whatever somewhere, if it impacts a equipment or it needs a patch or whatever, that is a knowledge that can be applied everywhere, right? And so the concept of using or having a partner in with us is an extension of my team. So rather than me bringing in the expert, which we do not have in house, we bring the whole company in, which including Josh also.
And you touched on it earlier about us having a relationship. Obviously, we're both local to Columbus as well. Our headquarters is in Dublin, so we're about 25 minutes apart. Spend a good bit of time together, and our team spend a good bit of time together. But why is that so important to Cameron Mitchell Group and to the success of our businesses? Why do you feel that way? And do you have examples of where not having a relationship has caused problems for others?
Yeah. Before I answer his question, I remember when I started very new with the company, at that time my boss mentioned, Orlando, we build relationship first, then we do work together, right? So it is a important part. They were local and they're a little bit more global or more, national. By that time when we started, they were local to us. We were able to have a lot of, meetings together. Um, but the part that brings the benefits that we want to have is the expertise. So if you think about it, as I mentioned earlier, having that knowledge in this industry. I can give you an example. I won't mention the company by name, the brand name, but we were going to deploy a VoIP solution. So we were going to go from on-prem PBX system, old-fashioned phone system, right? We had an on-prem every restaurant, and we want to modernize and go to a VoIP solution. We partnered with this vendor. They brought in their project manager engineer to build it out. I had to eventually ask a senior level to change those people out and bring me somebody who understands the restaurant industry phone system. They were trying to provide us a service that applies to a person sitting at a desk and that has a relationship with a account, a phone, and a computer. Restaurants don't have that, right? They don't sit at a desk and answer phones. The usage in the restaurant for phones is very important. Some restaurants not, but for us it's very important. So the phone deployment had to be fit for who we are. So same thing with them is that they have that knowledge that we were needing that would match our in-house expertise level, our complexity, or at least how we were growing, and their knowledge all merged together. It's a nice puzzle. The good thing is that, actually, the bad thing at first, I knew they had all these pieces, a puzzle, but it had the cover. I didn't know what the picture will be. Now I do.
And kind of going into that, now we have a weak coin in the store in a box, right? And it's taken us a long time to get there just because there's an investment that these restaurants have made, and we're not just going to go in and displace technology and have that capital expenditure. It's just not the right way to do business. But over the last 10 years, we've really moved into this rinse and repeat model of a store in a box. We want to talk about kind of how we transitioned you there and what that looks like.
Yeah. So by having them being part at the seat of the table, talking about the growth path, knowing that in X years we're going to, refresh our hardware, we took advantage of their knowledge and the timing to bring the standard equipment in. So now we have same type of switches, same type of firewall, same type of wireless devices. So it makes it easy to deploy a system that is consistent across and can scale. So the concept of a store in the box for now is that, yeah, some stores are larger, some stores are bigger. But more importantly, what is the same is the policy. So when you deploy whatever, you have your policy built in this product, and then you deploy it per store, or you have global settings. We have things that are global across, but we have things that are unique per restaurant. by building this environment, like for example, we're about to open 2 restaurants in about a month and a half from now. So I purchased the equipment. It goes to their space. They do a burn-in session. They ship it. I plug and it works. So because the policy and the governance and everything else that we need is almost a cookie cut. It's not the same because we do have different sizes of restaurants, more APs, more switches, and all that. But the core part of the environment is cookie cut going forward. So it helps us physically deploy it, but it also helps them to support us because now both sides are aware what a system looks like or how it functions.
Yeah, and it's a big advantage for us to be able to support his users because we know that now this technology is standard everywhere. It looks the same, it acts the same. We can apply those policies across the board for the most part. I mean, there's some stores that have different policies that get pushed out, but for the most part, it's identical, which allows us to provide faster support, more reliable support. Right, and we're able to keep those locations up and running longer too, which for all of you must know, like uptime in these restaurants is key, and just almost any business uptime is key. And driving towards those standards where a store in a box has been critical towards the success of that.
Yeah. Um, as we were looking at the growth and the transition in how we had technology in-house or in the company, we knew that 4 years ago, we knew by now we'll be more in the cloud, meaning we're changing how we use technology. Now we have to bring them in to make sure that things are built and designed. The other part that is also good about the relationship is that as we are using more complex technology, and at times we need a advisor, we now have logically talk directly with our third-party vendors who understand the language and then configure things. When you talk about PCI compliance, we use POS systems. So we have their team members talk with the POS systems security, cybersecurity people to make sure that we are meeting all the policies and port closures or whatever is needed for PCI compliance. If anybody does the PCI compliance SAQ, you know how difficult those things are, right? So a lot of small things you have to answer, and I want to make sure that I answer all those questions because I don't want to be the one going to jail if something goes wrong, right? So we'll make sure I keep things clean.
And even from a wireless perspective, that's been a huge benefit for us because early on when we partnered up, I don't know how many different versions of access points were out there in these restaurants, and it made it very challenging for our support desk to be able to support these locations because there could be Meraki out there, there could be Sonical, there could be Extreme, other vendors that are out there. And now we've standardized across, with Sonic Wall firewalls and Extreme Wi-Fi, we're able to make sure the wireless uptime is so much better
Yeah,
at these restaurants.
yeah. Up to 4 years ago, Wi-Fi in the restaurant was mostly in the dining room area, and only mostly for some guests. But because we're now more wireless devices, both behind what we call back of house in the back, and also front of house where you guys sit and dine, we have handheld devices for POS systems, freezers who are calling mothership because their fan is breaking. So a lot of IoT devices, all the things are now wireless. And so the concept of using the knowledge, building policy with VLANs and IP scopes and all that allows us to be more complex, but still simple because we have the knowledge. Prior to us standardizing, we were using physical switch to segregate between PCI network and non-PCI network, which adds cost because I may only need 4 cables to plug it into to a server, sorry, to a switch to physically isolate it. With the concept of VLAN and security and all that, that level is as good as physical, separation. So it is great to see the investment we have done, but we could not have done it with a relationship as logically as. If you're a big team, you have the expertise. I've been to a conference not too long ago. We're talking about data analytics and all that. And I was next to me, there was a person from a insurance company, large company. Her whole team is 30 people just doing data analytics. My whole team is 11 people doing everything else, right? So I will never have that expertise. Same thing with what they do. There's no need for me to have the expertise in my team because I will not use that person 100% of the time. they do, and then they grow and then help us.
What other advice do you have maybe for the audience around from technology advancements, walking the path of driving, business standards in restaurants or distributed environment companies? Like what other advice would you have for them?
My advice, and depending on the size of your company, and we were lucky enough to met each other when we both a little bit smaller, but it can still happen at a larger scale. But I truly believe in having that relationship. If you don't have the relationship, you just have a business person give you some support, professional service or managed service, then they go away, right? You need to have that relationship. I have called, Josh, in the early days, I've called up people, wake them up at night. We have a restaurant in Vegas, and during the first year we had F1, they didn't go right around their 11 o'clock, our 1 o'clock in the morning. Had to wake people up. But those relationship allows us to build that, right? They know that I will not call because I have a flat tire. I call them because I have major car problems, right? But the one thing that I will stress on is make sure that decision being made to expand growth, they are part of it. There's no way they can support you if you build a wall, design it, and say, here we go, support this now, right? It's like what people talk about these days. If you want good cybersecurity, build the product with cybersecurity people during the build of the product. It's not an add-on, it needs to be part of it. Same thing also is that you have to build your future with your partners in place.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the reasons why we've been so successful is because we're constantly at the table together talking about what the future looks like, and that you're not afraid to take our advice that might come from a completely different business lens and bring it into the restaurant group, right?
Yeah,
And that's been extremely powerful for the relationship, for the growth. I feel like honestly, the success of this relationship, but also just the restaurants and its ability to grow from a technology perspective too.
yeah. The trust that we have, I can talk openly with some of his team members about what is working and also what's not working, right? Nobody's perfect, but we have to be honest with ourselves and address where we can get better, better tomorrow than we were today, right? And the only way you can do it is we can have honest conversation, build a relationship, use their knowledge, and then move forward with their expertise.
I would also say for anybody here, if you're running distributed environment businesses like this, and maybe you haven't leaned into standardizing technology, and or you're probably also then if you haven't done that, you're leaning into non really business, equipment that's in these locations. You should really take a hard look at that. You will see such operational efficiencies and gains from uptime, from support issues, from better wireless connectivity. If you really lean into treating these more like real businesses from a distributed environment perspective, you'll see. I feel like you could probably talk about that for a long time, but I think that since we've moved Cameron Mitchell in that motion, we've just seen a lot better uptime from the stores.
Correct. Sometimes I don't know how many of you guys are in the restaurant, but the back of house things get greasy, dirty. If you look at them, where the stove, the kitchen, the grills are, the data jacks get really bad, really dirty, right? So sometimes the KDS screen where the orders comes in, the people have to make sure they know they do whatever they need to do. The the jack goes bad in the middle of dinner on a Friday. Now, can we get out there and fix the port? Depending if it's local, but we're in Columbus. If we have stores in Tampa, Florida, there's no way I can fly there quick enough, right? But they all have extra long cables for emergency. So they can call, say, hey, we got this problem. And then, they can say, well, we have another port over there, jack number, whatever. They will tell, well, go to the patch panel, find the patch panel port, plug that cable now into this switch, and then they can turn the right VLAN on. That is the level of support that if it's only us, my team, we will not be able to do it. They are 24/7. I need to sleep, so
Well, I appreciate the conversation, Orlando. Does anybody have any questions for Orlando or for me at all? Don't be shy. Nobody?
there's a lot of shy people here. I'm
There's a lot of shy people.
going to punch you out. Questions?
Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.